Hello there, virtual rafters. Thanks for clicking. It's a happy day. This was a long time in the making, but Chapter 3 for Raft has finally arrived, and it's jam-packed full of new items to build with, along with an elaborate journey to obtain it all. I'm gonna go light on the spoiler-type material for the story notes, just a few tips and previews for the new zones, but focus primarily on the super awesome new decorations and useful innovations. So let's take a look at what's new, or also what changed. Because it also just altered my plan of ever finishing the series that I was doing on the storyline. For those who already completed what was available up until June of 2022, flipping open your journal will reveal that some of your previously collected notes have changed. While not entirely new from the original premise, certain sections have major rewrites, including a massive plot change to Vasagatan Yacht, with ultimately still the same outcome. It just goes to show that there's very few ways to do things correctly and a lot more opportunities to get oneself killed out here. With never finishing the video on Tangaroa, it could be fun for us to compare the old footage with the new additions, since that footage from the old Tangaroa is still sitting on my hard drive. What these changes do is set us up for a more complete plotline by the time we reach the last location, and I can already see that characters are crossing paths when previously we couldn't be sure how many of the story's characters were ever destined to meet each other. Speaking of characters, with the update came 4 new playable options after we've unlocked them through doing some exploration and story completion. So Trustworthy and I have set sail to find those right away. Finally, other humans! All of that social isolation wasn't great for our brains. We actually get to hear voices now through acting lines that came along with the 4 personalities that can be commandeered as our in-game appearance.
January.
Given how the original notes even trigger a playback of the character reading the note aloud to you, I feel like the game is worth starting from scratch to experience it in its complete version. Devs put in some immersion work. Not a lot here has changed, but it's incentive enough to feel like a rewarding experience the second time around. Well, or technically third. Trustworthy and I think this game is so nice that we already played it twice. We've had Varuna Point in our logbooks for quite some time now, but the numbered coordinates have finally appeared in this patch. While it's tempting to go straight to new material, Trustworthy and I opted to start the story from the beginning, figuring that enough may have changed to be worth a couple hours' time. It took us all of about 5 minutes to collect up every note and make it to the top of the radio tower, where we found our first new playable character. The other most obvious addition is a blueprint on the board for the new recycler. It makes it worth it to stop at the tower early on to get this, so that you can turn your trash excess into something more valuable.
Hey, a friendly face. Wondering how I ended up here?
It takes longer to travel to some of the locations than it takes to clear them. We breezed right through Vasagatan as the main objectives of building a bomb and a carjack still remain. Most notes are still in their original locations, but skew the story slightly about the final days of the yacht. It's still about Olaf Wilkerson and what a donkey he is, or how poorly he plans anything. No new characters to find here, still just an empty, creepy hull of a boat that we're happy to get off of in a hurry, as we still have a few places to visit while being eager to see what's new. We blew through Balboa Island in just over a half an hour, as fast as our little legs would go getting us across the sizable island. You can still find a large collection of island notes at that site where the creepy dolls are constructed, much of which is the same kind of confusing content, but maybe slightly weirder. Don't forget to look for the locker out in the middle of woods, as the 3 tools, the saw, the hammer, and wrench, are still required for that tool board dropping off the wall of the ranger station to get the hidden note. Also, keep an eye out as several note locations have changed to unconventional places. And most notably, there's a new resident above the ranger station in radio tower number 2, and they'd like to join the raft crew. Caravan Town seems really big, but once you've kind of memorized all the tasks here, it's actually not too difficult to navigate around. The objectives on the island remain the same: collect battery cables and zipline parts through the scavenger hunt, and while those didn't get altered, several note locations were moved. The contents of the notes did get a rewrite, and some of which were significant changes that further tie the story together between the locations. It's still mostly from the perspective of Detto's journal, but the doc's note from the infirmary is quite a plot twist. I suspect already that the boy with the dog found in the engine rooms on Tangaroa was Detto. Turns out I was right about the budding scientist becomes an ever-increasingly large part of the plot. On the giant snow globe, he's trying to retrofit golf cart engines to run escape rafts after the ship becomes disabled, now drifting dead in the middle of the ocean. No signs of life aside from just one, a corporate stiff in a suit that thinks that entrepreneurial advice is useful during a global flood. The story takes on some new twists and some attention is required as a few note locations were moved, but if having those unlockable characters is important to you, you might want to make some trips back to visit familiar story places, and if you're into lots of decorative items, comb the place for the old Tangaroa tokens because those will now be expendable in any of the new game's vending machines. Because in Chapter 3, it will introduce 2 more vending machine stops in which to spend them. Lots of new things to hang from ceilings or on walls, and I'll preview that in a small demo build later in this video. But for now, here are some of the basics that Trustworthy and I discovered while exploring. We hope this might help you out. Varuna Point is a sunken structure that appears to have been in mid-construction and meant for the ultra-wealthy privileged types before over-exuberance would result in the investment slipping into the sea. This means a bulk of the adventure is underwater, so don't forget the oxygen mask because you're going to need it on the long swim between grates in the building, which release oxygen bubbles of air that can help you recover your breath periodically. You'll also want a decent weapon for the new enemy, this really creepy fish with tons of teeth. The electrified jellyfish don't chase after you, but they do react to light and will do damage to you if you're close enough. As the beams change position, the jellyfish will move, allowing you to enter the decaying structures. Some of the inside looks a little Titanic-like. You'll be hunting for notes and light bulbs. I'm sure you can figure out what to do with those. If you're running out of air, look up. Many crawl spaces above the room's ceilings are empty pockets where you can catch a breather. Maybe even find some loot. Eventually you'll figure out what's making that unsettling earthquake that keeps rumbling the screen. It's a boss fight with full mechanics. Hint: concrete pillars are good for hiding, but they're also a part of defeating that really big fish, for which you get a really big trophy for your raft when you beat it too. Ridiculously big. And that's not the end though. You'll have the notes and keys to find before you can put that giant crane on the roof to use. It's going to involve a hideous gauntlet of health pool draining traps, so bringing along some salve is a good idea for this adventure. It's probably the zone that requires the most emotional resilience of all the story locations. But once satisfied that you've explored through it enough, Temperance is waiting. Getting into the island was complicated as it was fairly well surrounded by large ice glaciers. After carefully navigating in, scramble your way up to the snow line because you won't stop moving. Even if you stop running, it just slowly sends you back down into the water. Be on the lookout for the reskin bears from Balboa. They've got a new stylish mask to wear for us. The general idea here is collecting electrical wires from towers across the island. These are used to connect a puzzle together in which to power up a small research facility. What's awesome is we get snowmobiles to aid us in getting around this. Vehicles can be found in these metal sheds located throughout the zone. They have room for 2 and can be parked on ice, so convenient for a run back to the raft if needed, which it might be. This place is actually quite a lot to traverse. The little research village is just the first stop. There's a glowing nuclear facility at the top of the hill and still one more stop before that's accessible. Gotta find the key first, which requires hunting about the snow-covered land for a large lab, but don't forget to stop by and spend those tokens at the vending machines that you found in the research village before taking off from the island. If you want to splurge a little, go ahead, you'll have more opportunities to collect coins before landing at the final vending stop. This nuclear plant starts to further unfold the plot and contains a series of puzzles to solve to complete the objective. I recommend packing along a lot of food and water for this journey, along with a good weapon to beat up nuclear-resistant bugs. We find out that Utopia isn't just a concept, but the name of a place for our next coordinates. A fascinating place. Skyscraper tops sitting above the waterline with a network of wooden docks that creates a makeshift infrastructure. Immediately obvious that the inhabitants are hostile. The Hyenas, which are mostly in the marketplace area. At this point, I hadn't expected the story to take the turn that it did. The last half of the story locations turns into a long and slow boss fight chain. But first, we've got to do some puzzles involving more of Detto's inventions, get some keys, and unlock the door that will trigger the whole boss event. You won't need to bring along a shovel for this. Several can be found around Detto's home and garden area to complete the tasks. Save your inventory for the vending machines. The good news is that you'll be able to expand your inventory as the blueprint found in his shop is for a larger backpack. One of the many fabulous additions to the game from Chapter 3. Lots of patience and maybe some salve required to get through the boss event. Once you've got them on the run, there are more puzzles involved before getting into a more traditional boss fight that involves waves of ads. The damage can add up. I didn't want to do too much spoiling in this tip video for Chapter 3 changes, but I will say that the final zone is quite large and is packed with a lot to do. Those aren't just empty shelves of buildings being used as supports, but they're actually part of the path along finishing the quest chain. It's going to keep one busy for a while, and I'll spare the info on the ending stuff. Skip to previewing all the assets that were added in Chapter 3, including the inventories from the trader stands now found sporadically on the large islands. This is where that recycler from the radio tower comes in, to creating the cubes that are one of the currencies these stands accept along with tokens. Not the ones from Tangaroa or other story locations this time, but ones from the trader hut itself. And how do we get these, one might ask? Through some additions to fishing in Chapter 3. There is now a menu prompt for bait that will come up when equipping your fishing pole. Right-click to select 3 of the new options, which can be purchased from these little trader huts. This great little addition, it has a multi-tiered inventory system that's unlocked by reputation gains. Each tier is filled with a variety of goods from blueprints and recipes to many wearable accessories and house decor items. It gives players some goals and a good way to expend excess trash collected by turning it into recycling cubes. The trader stands are also stocked with herbs used in those new cooking and juicer recipes, so there's ample reasons to be visiting these often. For such a small building, it brings a ton of incentive for activity to the game. For those who don't mind some spoilers, been constructing a wonky several story condensed raft to preview the assets added in Chapter 3 updates from functional to decorative. Building mechanics in Chapter 3 stayed roughly the same aside from some texture change and the addition of the horizontal pillar. That one pillar now makes so much possible though. No longer do we have to settle for placing another stabilizing post every other foundation, clogging up our rooms. Just rotate and connect some of the horizontal pillars to add the support for big rooms or platforms. I love it! Another little building oddity that really serves as more of a decoration, as it actually doesn't act as a support beam, is the detail plank, which can be stretched in many different directions to achieve the shape that one needs. Let's do some touring here from the front to the rear. First up is the advanced biorefiner, which awesomely pipes right into the biofuel tank and engines directly, so no more manually having to transfer fuel. Lovely convenience upgrade there. Another is the electric furnace, and this thing is quite large, but provides 3 places for ores now to be smelted, and on battery power as opposed to the old smelter's planks, so good stuffs. Brilliantly, the devs have added an advanced anchor. One might be wondering why. Is it just more of an industrial look of our old one? I mean, what gives? The key to this is found on the side of your raft's engine controls. There's now a yellow switch on the side to activate this advanced anchor. No more running around across the raft to drop the anchor now! Yay! Simple upgrade, but such quality of life. Side note, the engine switch only works with the advanced anchor and not the older wooden hand-cranked version. The juicer can put fruits to good use by turning it into boosted drinks that provide you with some buffs. Yeah, including one that helps you keep your breath longer underwater, so that can be useful. Similar to the cook pot, we need recipes in order to know how to craft drinks, otherwise we end up with some rather disgusting leftovers that don't give much nourishment. Recipes can be found exploring. Trustworthy and I have found a few when doing the story locations, and I noticed that there's a couple more in that trader stand inventory. Ingredients are placed down on the counter, then activate the blade. A few moments of snazzy animation later, and the yummy drinks are ready to consume. I've tried to squeeze tons of the decorations from the new zones or trader stands into this cabin. There's plants, paintings, even the adorable tableware, and so many things that can be hung from every wall, window, or ceiling, but there were just so doggone many of them. I went ahead and just put up some displays for you to see them all a little better so that you can get an idea of what you want to put on your wish list. I need a ton of these bottle lights. Those are fabulous, and so are these hanging decorations. Digging the dream catcher, plus this one with the little boats, how cute. And those aren't the only things. How about an entire selection of herbs for the kitchen or garden area? Our rafts are really becoming sophisticated living spaces, and we demand tasty foods. There's 3 new paintings, and 3 potted plants from the Adventures at Temperance. 3 new plants akin to the Tangaroa style stuff, adding variety to all of the greeneries that can be utilized. And all of the good things come in 3s. There's 3 new horn decoration noisemakers to mess around with. Other random goodies include 2 rugs, a game of tic-tac-toe, the foundation counter to keep track of how big your boat is getting, and these little goofy drawbridges. And per usual, there's animal head trophies brought back from your adventures that can be hung on boards for displays. With Chapter 3 came the polar bear reskin to go with our other bears. We also get a even creepier fish display than the puffers. And then there's the pretty cool looking hyena heads. There's so many reasons to scrap trash for recycle cubes and fish for the new dwellers of the sea. New house items include a useful refrigerator, which acts as storage and is perfectly styled into the retro raft look. And then also, there's the wardrobe. Not only takes up space and makes for a lovely bedroom look, but when we click on it, it opens a menu to change the color of our outfits. It's not super necessary, but still a fun thing to look forward to when there's nothing else to spend cubes on. Color changing of outfits can still be done from the character menu on the title screen if you want to change it up now. Trader stands also have the recipe for the new planter box upgrades thrown into this update. Not only are these fantastic looking, makes it a bit easier to make uniform rows with the square shape, but also notice that there's more spaces to plant in the medium and small size planters. Medium planters for fruits have the ability to grow 4 crops at once now. The smaller flower and vegetable planter also have been bumped to 4. It's propped up on legs to match the heights with the other new planters. The large version still holds just 1 tree or banana plant, but the whole set is definitely an upgrade. What else got an upgrade? The collection nets. A nice reskin to match with the deck textures, but it also holds more items. Another massive quality of life that was added, the Windmill battery charger, which holds up to 4 batteries for charging by automated wind power. No more expenditure of biofuel to keep batteries at full charge. Advanced batteries are now an option to power things for far longer periods between those charges. One of these will keep the new battery-operated grill going for many sessions. This upgrade to the modern-looking barbecue provides 6 cooking spaces now and spares the planks. Those can go on to the recycler for more blueprints. We're going to need that canteen as it holds enough water to substitute for half a backpack full of water bottles. Other cool tools exist now too. There's an entire line of titanium options to blow your oars on now. Trustworthy is going to be happy about this. He loves metal detecting for titanium and other treasures. Not sure how helpful that compass is going to be, especially if you're already familiar with the landscapes, but the electric zipline tool, clever, very clever. This one's going to allow you to go both up and down the slope of the zipline. So really fast for raft travel, but also would be super useful when recovering story zones for tokens. Let me just try on some of the new hats here, just in case any of these catch your fancy and you might want to go find them in game. I'm gonna have to rework that Tangaroa story guide I was editing right when this update dropped, but eventually I'll have complete guides for locations in case you need assistance finding notes or blueprints. There's definitely some fun story changes to go over what's dubbed the final chapter. Now that the game is, in air quotes, finished, I wonder if we'll see any more additions to it. I think the trader stand definitely put opportunity for devs to get new goodies into the game if they wanted to, and I think it would be rather interesting if the playable characters had their own quest lines that could be triggered when playing as that NPC. There's ways to expand. It's just whether or not they want to continue on a project that's already been going for years, but I can hope. I don't know about you all, but Raft is one of my favorite games. Even if the future doesn't see any developer love, I'm still likely to log into it on occasion and build a raft for no other reason than just to build a raft. So if you're ever looking for creative ideas, please check out the playlist, and thanks for stopping by today's video. Back to building, take care y'all, and bye-bye!